When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home, I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing.
Hi, my name is Larry White, and I am your producer and director of The Inner Beat. The Inner Beat is a socially conscious program that sometimes showcases cultural events as well as community events. And occasionally, we'll even bring you a little song and dance. So sit back and enjoy The Inner Beat.
But there has been denial for hundreds and hundreds of years about the reality of the contribution of people of African ancestry. And it's not a confrontation that's comfortable for the oppressor. So we have to go into that world realizing that you can't change them. I had a colleague on the Board of Regents who finally said that to me. She said, you know, one day when she'd had a little too much wine to drink at dinner, I always sat beside her so I could pour more wine in her glass, because that's when you really found out how they felt about things. And she said, you know, Adelaide, you may be right about some of the things you say about uncertified teachers and no textbooks and no libraries and no channel for the consumer of educational services to initiate a grievance. She said, but I can't cope with that truth. So I will fight you every step of the way. Because if I accept it, it will put a lie to all that I have done and said. So we have to understand. I was glad she said that. I said, thank you, Mimi. I'm going to remind you of that often. I was glad she said it. I felt in my heart that if she had any intelligence, she knew the truth. Because the presentation of the facts was irrefutable. But she couldn't give up, because she wouldn't be able to live with that lie. And I'm sure that that's true with America today. We see that in what is happening in the war in Iraq. At first you're going there because they bombed, because they had weapons of mass destruction. And you can't say, no, I was wrong. They don't have. Now we're making them a democracy when we're not a democracy ourselves. But it's a way of thinking that has allowed them to persevere. But you can make sure that they know that you're there. There's some things that they won't say if you're there, and there's some things that you can educate them in. Dr. McIntosh said that Dr. Clarke taught the staff at Hunter. And at these 19 years on the Board of Regents, I have tried to teach the Regents, even when they didn't want to learn. One of the reasons for the development of the Sanford Award for the study of the African experience in the diaspora is for the presentation to be made at the Board of Regents meeting, so they will hear it. They cannot not hear it. And the confrontation of that truth empowers our people. I think also one of the things that is very impressive to me about Dr. Clarke is the fact that on a personal level, he may not have had everything that he wanted in his personal life. And there are many, many of us who are destroyed by the fact that we're not happy. But he had a happiness around his people that transcended the fact that he may not have had the kind of personal life that would have been supportive to him. When he traveled to Africa, the mother of his 2 children, very, very strong, fine woman, but she was not an intellectual, spiritual, and African conscious companion to him. But that didn't stop him from what he had to do. So don't think that because your life is not everything that you want it to be, that it's not perfect, that you have to struggle around some issues of health or some issues of personal gratification, that exempts you from the struggle for our people. He struggled for our people to the very end of his life. And these are the things about him that I knew and admired. And I often read excerpts from this book, On My Journey Now, in which a very well-known author talked about his experiences with Dr. Clarke. He questioned Dr. Clarke about some of his thinkings and some of his writings, and Dr. Clarke was able to defend it. Now, when it comes to an understanding also that people are at different levels of need, and while there are some people who don't need Kwanzaa, I have read a columnist in the Daily News, a young woman of African ancestry. She says she doesn't need Kwanzaa. And there may be some people who don't need some of the steps that people who are less African-centered need. And we have to understand that. There are experiences that some who have been in the struggle a long time and have matured and have a depth of understanding and see beyond the various superficialities that come up. They don't need some of the experiences that the younger people need. And that's one of the reasons why we have a Clarke House, and we have some of the sages, some of the wisdom, some of the elders to come and talk, help us to reinforce our thinking. One of the other people who counseled me and was so helpful was Dr. Pasteur, may he rest in peace, a psychologist. And every once in a while he would call me and he would say, Addie, don't let them make you think there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And that's important because sometimes when you live in that cold world of lies and myths and building up of people and tearing down other people, you can become confused. I can remember being at a conference when the children in the audience complained because teachers left the school and teachers weren't teaching them properly.
Wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed, no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be.